G'day guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back for another episode of Space Engineers. So in today's episode what I wanted to show you was how to start building your first mining ship. So this mining ship is a little bit more advanced than some of the others that I've seen, and yeah, I just think it's a really good starter ship. Now it's probably not perfectly suited for the new planet Pertam. It will struggle a little bit. But yeah, I mean certainly for an Earth save, Mars save and the alien planet save, then I think it's going to be really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the drop pod to actually make this ship, because a lot of the parts that we need are actually already in the drop pod. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to all my subscribers. So over the holiday period in December, we reached 1,000 subscribers, and I got to admit guys, I'm just absolutely blown away. I never thought in a million years that I would have a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for your support everyone, I really appreciate it. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to change my view here, and then we're going to go back into the enable our console. So if we just have a look at some of the basic stats of this mining ship here, what I've done on the left here is I've listed out all the components that you require to build this ship in the first place. And obviously what I've done down the bottom is I've listed what you need as a minimum to actually build all of these components. So obviously we need a basic refinery and a basic assembler. So up until you get to the point where you have built those two items, then obviously you're probably going to need to use some hand mining and start mining some stone. And then from there you can build your basic refinery and basic assembler. And then of course you can start building more complex components, and then you can start building something like this. So as you can see, this mining ship has about 12 thrusters, so in the downwards direction, so it can lift quite a bit, and it's a really good miner for starting out with. And what you can do is you can kind of get rid of a couple of the drills, and you can only run with one drill, and yeah, things like that to kind of get you started. But anyway, before you even get to that stage, I recommend that you build something like this. Now this is basically just like kind of a starter platform, I would say, not really a base, but this is really what you need to kind of get yourself started. And so obviously we need to build a wind turbine, a basic assembler, a basic refinery, and these two parts here on the side are optional, but I highly recommend that you build them before you start building something like this. And that is a small cargo container and a battery. Now, yeah, I guess you could build them after you build the small mining ship, but yeah, you definitely want to kind of get to a point where you have a battery. And the reason why I say you want to have a battery is because the battery can output 12 megawatts, and it doesn't really matter how much power these components pull. This one turbine will be enough to power all of this. Because remember, you're not always going to be using this refinery, so when you're not using the refinery and the assembler, then this is going to be charging this battery. So obviously later on you want to get more wind turbines, but yeah, so obviously I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here, so anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing you land with is this drop pod here. So as you can see, this is basically just a standard old drop pod. And what we have here is we have our, I believe this is our survival kit. Let's have a look here. Yep, that's our survival kit. And then we have an O2H2 generator. Basically got an antenna, we've got 4 engines, we've got an ore detector, we've got ourselves a seat, a timer block, a beacon, a whole bunch of conveyors, a parachute hatch, and a whole other bunch of bits and pieces. So what I like to do is I actually like to start from the back end of this. So yeah, basically for the purposes of this video, I've just made it in creative mode, because it's probably going to take me a little bit too long to gather all the components together and weld them all up, and I'm sure you guys don't really want to see that. So basically what you need to do is you know, kind of translate this into a save where you don't have creative mode enabled. Alright, so I think the first thing I might do is I might actually set up mirror mode. So I'm going to press the N key, and then I'm going to press M, here I can select my middle axis. So I'm going to set the middle axis here, so I'm going to set it there. And then I'm going to left mouse button click to set my axis. And then I can set another axis if I want to. But we're only going to go with the middle axis, so I'm just going to press M until we get back to our regular mode. And now, as you can see, when I go to build something or delete a block, it will do the same on the other side. So now that we've done that, we can start building this. Now obviously, being in creative mode, we have access to this feature, but if we're not in creative mode, then you're not going to have access to this feature and you're going to need to build everything by hand. So first of all, let's go ahead and get started. Let's get rid of this light. Let's get rid of these blocks here. And I'm going to get rid of this one as well. And the first thing I like to do, well basically I'm going to leave this battery exactly where it is. I'm not going to move that, but I am going to get rid of that. And I am going to get rid of, well actually I'm going to turn mirror mode off, and then I'm going to delete that and collect all these components. And it's also worth mentioning that before you start building this ship, you go into the inventory of this seat and you remove all of these items. So you can see here, this is basically GPS coordinates to the nearest station on the planet that you spawn on. We have access to an automatic rifle, and then also we have access to a little bit of ammo. So let's go ahead and delete some blocks here as well. I'm going to turn mirror mode back on. Let's get rid of those two before they start clanging around. Let's get rid of these blocks here. Let's get rid of these blocks, those blocks there. Right, let's get rid of the seat. Let's get rid of the timer block. And what is this block here? That is what is that? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, small cargo container. I didn't mention that before. Actually, let's get rid of the beacon first. Let's get rid of the parachute hatch, the other conveyor port, that, and that. Now, I'm going to start deleting all of these landing gears. So for this, I'm going to turn mirror mode off again. And I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete this landing gear, and I'm going to delete this landing gear. And this last landing gear, I'm going to leave that there for now, because that's the only thing that's stopping this thing from tipping over. Okay, so the next step is placing our first cargo container. So the first cargo container will go at the back here. And the way I'm going to place this is I'm going to build a medium cargo container. So let's select our medium cargo container. And we're going to place this large port downwards like that. So let's place it there like that. And then we're going to have these small conveyor ports pointing towards the front. So then I'm going to place one directly in front of that. And then from there, I'm going to grab my small conveyors, and I'm going to place two small conveyors. And then I'm going to place another conveyor here, another two conveyors there. Actually, before I get too far ahead of myself here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a couple of blocks here. So let's go ahead and get rid of these conveyors. And then you can see in here there are some lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete those on both sides. Awesome. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this ore detector, and I'm going to move this antenna to those positions there. Now it doesn't really matter which side you put these on, but yeah, so let's grab ourselves an ore detector, let's place that there. Let's grab ourselves an antenna and we'll place that there, and the rest of the blocks I'm just going to leave the same. So let's grab our conveyors again and let's place them like that. I can see some weather incoming, so I'm just going to quickly get rid of that. Awesome. Alright, now, so from there, what I want to do is, so with any kind of mining ship, it's always a good idea to have kind of like a system where it ejects stone, because in certain scenarios you don't actually want to get any stone because it just clogs up the works, and yeah, you just don't really want to deal with it. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can get these things called conveyor sorters. So I'm going to place them here like this underneath these, and then directly under those I'm going to place something called an ejector. So if we turn our character upside down here and we place an ejector there, an ejector there, and I'll show you how to configure those in a little bit. Alright, so now we've got the basics of our ship. So we have a battery, we've got all of our conveyors, we've got our 2 cargo containers, medium cargo containers ready to go. And then from there I'm basically just going to seal this in with some light armor blocks. Let's go ahead and do that. And then on the front here, obviously we're going to want to put a cockpit. So let's put in our cockpit, and you can see the reason why I've put these conveyors in the positions that I have. So we'll turn this cockpit around, and you can see that those ports are going to line up with this conveyor and this conveyor. So let's go ahead and place our cockpit. And then what we can do is we can fill in the gap with some light armor blocks. And we can dress it up a little bit and place some 2x1 slopes if we want to. Or we could even, you know, go 2x1s there and then the other blocks there, but I guess that will do for now. So I'm actually going to get rid of that block too. Alright, and then from there I'm going to select my drill, and you can see on the back of this drill that there is one small conveyor port. Now it's worth mentioning that ores only need small conveyor ports to travel through, so we don't need to worry about large conveyor ports. Large conveyor ports are for things like steel plates and large steel tubes and all that sort of stuff. So let's turn mirror mode back on just to make our lives a little bit easier. And there we have it, there is the front of our ship. So I always like to basically keep these thrusters in their original locations, just because I think that's a pretty good location to put them. And then let's go ahead and delete this block. Alright, so now you can see we've got all of our components in there, everything that we need. So now I'm going to place another battery. So let's place our second battery here like this. And then we're going to need a third battery for this particular ship as well. And what I like to do in this particular design is place the battery up the top here. So let's place our battery. Let's plonk it there like that. You see it kind of sticks out a little bit. So then from there I basically want to go and place a 2x1 slope. And then let's select our other 2x1 slope. Let's just place something along the lines of that. Awesome. Alright, and then from there, I basically want to do the same here. And then I like to put in just a regular square block. And we place in another 2x1 slope. Is that the right way around? Yes, it is. I mean, realistically, you can change this design up a little bit if you want. This is basically just the design that I've settled on. So basically what I'm going to do is just show you guys how to build this for yourselves. So let's go ahead and build it like that. Put that there. Grab another square block. Grab another 2x1. And then another 2x1 slope again. Right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to place some engines here going in each direction. So I'm going to delete that, delete that, delete that. And do the same here and the same here. And then we will grab our engines or our atmospheric thrusters and we'll place 3 there like that. And then we can do the same for the front and the rear. So let's get rid of those. Let's place them there like that. Let's do the same for this side. Basically just want to build it the same way that I'm building it, except you're going to be using a grinder instead of doing it like this. Alright, so now that we have our sideways thrusters, so we got thrusters going left and right, we got thrusters going forward, and we got thrusters going backwards as well. Sometimes in certain scenarios you might want to have more thrust going this way than that way, and the reason for that is so that you can kind of dip the ship down and kind of mine at an angle. But yeah, obviously just keep in mind that the more thrusters that you add in that direction, then the more kind of like weight you're adding to the ship as well. So it can kind of have a detrimental effect to your ship. So with that being said, let's go ahead and place our thrusters here in the rear, the extra ones. So let's go ahead and select our thrusters again. Let's place 2 there like that. And then let's place some more like that. And then from there we can grab our 2x1 slopes, and place them there like that. And then let's grab some more thrusters. Let's place some thrusters here. And then let's place some more thrusters there. And then basically up here, what we can do is we can grab our spotlights. We can actually add the new spotlights now that they've been added to the game, but I mean, to kind of stay true to my old design, I'm just going to use the standard old spotlights. And they're not really DLC either, so yeah, there is that too. Okay, cool. So now we have our cargo containers, we have all of our thrusters installed, we have our spotlights, our drills, our cockpit, and we also have our antenna and our ejector system, and we have our ore detector as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the cockpit, and I'm going to basically go into the control panel, and let's just show the hidden blocks. So when this thing is first spawned, a lot of these blocks are actually hidden. So can I actually see the hidden blocks? Yeah, there we go. So you want to change it so that it displays like that, and you can see these thrusters here. These are the 4 original thrusters, like this one, this one, this one, and this one. So they're the 4 original thrusters that we didn't have access to before because they were hidden in the control panel. So if we go back into the control panel, we'll show the hidden items, and then we'll just unhide that. So to do that, basically what we want to do, where's that 4th one gone? Oh yeah, okay, so we want to go show block in terminal. And now we can see that they're no longer hidden. I want to do that as well for the landing gear, And for the landing gear, what I want to do is, so now we want to work on the underside of the ship. So I need to unlock the landing gear from this platform. So what we need to do first is turn off the auto lock, and we need to turn, actually, you know what guys? There is one vital component that I forgot all about. So what I should have done at some point is added some gyroscopes. So let's just add in a block here and a block here, just to kind of keep these here. Let's get rid of those blocks. And what I usually like to do is put the gyroscopes behind these. So I think what I'll do is I'll go back in here and I will place my gyroscopes down here. So let's crouch a little bit here so we can get a good view. Let's select our gyroscopes. Let's add them in. And now we will actually have control of the ship. Well, lucky I picked up on that now, otherwise the ship wouldn't have handled very well. Let's put our cockpit back in. And then we can go ahead and get rid of these blocks. We don't need to, we can keep them there, but yeah. Alright, now let's go back into the control panel. Let's turn off our landing gear. Let's unlock our landing gear. And now we have control of the ship. So I'm going to place it up in the air a little bit. And then from there, I'm going to turn mirror mode off. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete that, that, and that. And then I'm basically going to grab my connector and I'm going to place a connector there. And another thing you can do is you can also place some more ejectors on the bottom of this by placing some more conveyor ports here and some more conveyor sorters. And yeah, you can kind of add some more ejectors if you want to, but I think, you know, 2 ejectors for this size ship is enough. Any more and you kind of add more unnecessary weight to this ship, and it's just, yeah, sometimes it's just really not worth it. Alright, so before I go ahead and do anything else, I'm just going to change the color of the entire ship to Army Camo Black. So to do that, what I'm going to do is go Control Shift and then middle mouse button click. And that will change every single block on this ship to the color that I want. Awesome, so now it's looking pretty slick. Well, at least I think it does. Alright, so that's basically what you need to do to set up your mining ship. And then what's required next is setting up the hotbar. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So the first item I always like to put on my hotbar is the drills. So firstly what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a group for my drills. So I'm going to name this drill 1, select all of these, and I'm going to call this Drop Pod Drills. Just so that if we end up getting more drills on any other grids, then it's easy to identify what drills we're actually talking about when we see them in the control panel. So I'm going to save that, and then we're going to go to our G menu. So we want to select this drill here. And then, but if we add like that drill, then it's got the on and off. But basically, we want to remove that, and we want it just to be like that, so that when we select number 1, and we click the mouse, then it actually starts drilling. Not before and not after. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I want to set up some groups for my thrusters. So what I want to do is I want to set up a group for all my thrusters. So let's select all of our thrusters. And let's create a group for that. So drop pod miner all thrusters. Save that. And then what I want to do is I want to select all of the thrusters at the front of the ship. So all the thrusters, you know, that we can see here. So let's go back into the control panel and let's select our backwards thrusters. Drop pod miner backwards thrusters. And let's make another group for those. Press G again to set up our hotbar. Go into groups, and I want to toggle this block on and off, and toggle this block on and off. So basically what this lets us do is if we press number 3, then if I accelerate the ship forward, it will just keep accelerating. And then if I turn those thrusters on, then obviously the ship will kind of speed up and slow down. And then obviously the thrusters on the bottom are for, basically turning off all the thrusters from when you park the ship and you want it to charge. So what we can do is we can go back down to the ground and we can turn off all of our thrusters. Except those thrusters there aren't doing what we tell them to do. Yes, that's right, because the original thrusters are not actually turned on. So now, hopefully, when we turn off all of our thrusters, they should all actually turn off this time. And they do. Awesome. Alright, and then the next thing I like to put is the connector. So we go back into our control panel, and I'm going to rename this the Drop Pod Miner connector. Into our control panel, go to all blocks, and we want to select switch lock, and then that will basically allow us to lock onto any connectors. Now the next thing that I like to always set up is the ejectors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the control panel for the 5th time, and we're going to set up a group for the ejectors because there are 2 of them. Going to name that number 1, and we'll name this same convention as all the other stuff. I'm going to save that as a group, and we'll go into here and we'll toggle those blocks on and off. And then the 6th thing that I want to set up in the hotbar is the spotlights. So we're going to go back into the K menu and find our spotlights, and we're going to give this another group again. Now also what I like to do sometimes on these ships is actually add some lights on the sides and underneath the ship. So I have actually done that on the one on the left, so you can kind of so we will have a look at that in a second, but I honestly can't remember where I put them. So let's go back into our hotbar configuration and let's set up our drop pod lights, and then from there I want to add the ore detector. So go back to the G menu, back into ore blocks, and let's have a look for the ore detector. Toggle that on and off, and then we'll have a look at the antenna and we'll toggle that block on and off. Now also I just wanted to point out, guys, that because this ship has been built from the drop pod miner or from the drop pod itself, if you go ahead and spawn another drop pod, then it will actually delete this entire ship. So just be careful when you do that. You can merge this to like another grid and then kind of get around that, or you can basically build this ship from scratch. But to be perfectly honest with you, if you are going to build this ship from scratch, then I recommend you just build something better than this. And I do actually have a few designs on my workshop, which I will link down in the description, and I will also link this ship completed in the workshop as well, so that you guys can download it and have a look at it and kind of, get a good feel on how you're going to build it. But obviously if you follow this video, then it's going to be pretty easy for you to do that anyway. Alright, so let's just basically go through some of the tips to fly this thing. So let's turn our thrusters back on. Let's go and do some mining. Alright, so let's say you have an ore deposit directly beneath the surface here. So one thing you can do, or one thing I like to do, is basically just tilt the ship and then right click. Basically create a nice big hole in the ground. And then you can basically just kind of drive down to the ore deposit that you want. And then you can start mining there. So, and then you basically tilt the ship back up again. And you can make a bigger hole. So it's easier to get in and out of. And then yeah, you can start mining. So let's do a bit of mining and let's just see how much this thing can carry. So now I'm left clicking, and that's basically picking up all the ice there. So once it gets to about 83,000 kilos, then that means it's about full. So if we go to our inventory and we select, so obviously the cockpit will hold some, the drills will hold some, but yeah, basically the medium cargo container is full, the second medium cargo container is full, and you can see that our ejectors are also full, and our drills are almost full, but I think that's pretty much as, you know, on Earth that's perfectly fine, but if you're mining on the alien planet and on Pertam, then I'd probably suggest that you keep it at around about 70,000 kilos max, because this ship will kind of struggle on those planets to lift that amount of weight. And then basically you go to your base, and then you connect up to a connector. So let's go ahead and place our connector. Find it. Yeah, there it is. Let's place our connector there. Let's go in. Move the ship over a little bit. And then let's lock our connector by pressing number 4. And then all of the thrusters turn off. And when you are connected to the base, what you can do is you can make the ship charge faster than what it usually would. And to do that, you can go into the K menu and you can select your batteries. So we have our batteries here. And you can see I also have some other batteries, and those are the batteries that you can see here on the floor. So if I go back into the cockpit of this mining ship, and I'll have a look in the control panel, and I'll look at the batteries. These batteries here in white, these are the batteries for the mining ship, and the reason why I know that is because they are white. And these ones in orange, they are basically the blocks of the other grid. So yeah, basically that's what that means. So yeah, basically what we can do is we can make these charge faster by going into there, and where it says charge mode, we can change that to recharge, or we can change it to discharge if we want to flatten these batteries for whatever reason. Let's say you want to get rid of a ship, there's no point grinding down the batteries. What I'd recommend doing is parking the ship up, selecting discharge, waiting for the batteries to discharge completely, and then from there you can grind down the ship and you're not really wasting any power. Later on in the game it doesn't really matter, but when you're first starting out then it probably does matter quite a bit. So yeah, there is that. Now, the last thing that I wanted to go over was how to set up the ejection system to get rid of stone. So you remember before I mentioned that we put some ejectors on the bottom to basically get rid of all the waste stone that we don't want. So to do that, what we want to do is go stone on the mind. So basically what we want to go and do is select our ejectors. No, we want to select our conveyor sorters. So what we want to do is select each one individually, and we want to set it to whitelist. So let's select that to whitelist as well. And then what I want to do is I want to find stone in here, select that and click add. So that means that it's going to whitelist, which means it will allow that item to pass through the conveyor sorter. And we want that to be stone because we want stone to be ejected from the ship. So we will do that for both of these. And so let's disconnect from the base and let's go over to this rock wall over here, and let's just see what happens when we go up to this wall and we start mining ourselves some stone. And you will see that it will just start dropping out the bottom. Ooh, that was a little bit close. Yeah, so when it's fully loaded with ores, you kind of want to be a little bit careful. Well, more careful than I am, that's for sure. So, I'm going to check our stone. No, probably not because it's a little bit full. Alright, so I think what I might do is exit the ship, and I'm going to place a lot of the ice into my inventory, and because I'm in creative mode I can place as much ice as I like into my inventory. Actually, are my ejectors even turned on? Let's have a look here. Yes they are. So let's go and have a look at our ejectors, and I think I know what the problem is here. So that's not turned on. So yeah, that's one other thing that you want to do that I didn't mention before. You want to go into the ejector and you want to turn the throw out feature on. So now if we go and mine some stone, then it should just fall out the bottom of the ship. So let's go and mine some stone. Still it doesn't do it. Okay, so I think what we need to do is set it to that. And now it's going to do it. Let's change our view. Let's go down and mine some ice just to make sure that it's working the way we want. See now what it's doing is it's just ejecting all of the stone out of the bottom of the ship. Probably help if we turn both of them on, right? And then if we go into our inventory, we can see the stone just quickly being, not quickly, but gradually being ejected. And basically what the ship will try and do is it will try and move items out of the drills into the medium cargo containers. So that's the reason why you can kind of see this increasing and this increasing here, the ice. Now, like I said before, you can add some more ejectors to kind of speed this process up. But again, when you do that, you add more weight to the ship and you limit its ability to carry ore. So, like I said, you kind of want to, have a balance as to what you want to place, or how many ejectors and how much weight you want to place on this ship. Alright, so let's go. Yeah, and now you can see we've gotten rid of all of our stone, and we get to keep all of the rest of the stuff that we actually want. Then we head on back to base, and then we deposit everything. And as you can see, it's quite slow to slow down and speed up. So don't drive too fast with your ship. Just try and take it easy so you don't crash into anything. because this early on in the game, if you crash it and you blow a lot of things up, then it can have, you know, some pretty big effects to how you start the game. Alright guys, well that's basically going to be it for this video. So I hope it was helpful for you guys, and as I said before, I'm going to add these ships, or this ship rather, onto the workshop so that you guys can get a up close and personal view of it. And then also I'll add some other mining ships that I've created, some for space, some for planets, and yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video guys, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.